neck, my back, my Netflix, and my crack. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the 4th and 1 podcast. Everywhere you get your podcast at 4th and 1 podcast. I don't think I can say podcast enough. We're live from Lancaster, Lidditz, and Williamstown, Pennsylvania, as always. It's been a wild week in college football. The boys are back in town. It's your boy, a.k.a. Simeon Schlicker, sitting next to my brother from the same mother, Micaiah, a.k.a. Captain Boring. And as always, the not CFB insider, Robert. We're here, and we're ready to go. Boys, I dug out 5 bushes that were 50 years old this weekend, so the amount of football I watched was minimal at best. That included me getting extremely upset at Michigan and watching Penn State not cover against UCLA. A lot more happened, though. Micaiah, why don't you just take me through whichever upset this week that happened? Whichever one you want to pick.
Whichever one I want to pick. Yeah. All right. Well, then why don't I do the big one?
Yeah.
Bama Vandy.
Sure.
I cannot speak highly enough of Vandy's game plan because it wasn't a fluke. What Vandy did to Bama, they outright won the game against Alabama. Just some of the statistics. They outgained Alabama. They had 0 turnovers. They had 42 minutes time of possession. Bama had 2 turnovers. Vandy had almost not double, but 10 more first downs than Alabama did. They just absolutely beat Alabama at home, and
Vandy was at home.
And Vandy was at home, and the fact that they gave up 35 points, but Bama's defense could not stop Vanderbilt all afternoon. Vandy scored 13 in the first quarter. It was a pick 6. 7 of that was a pick 6. 10 in the second, 7 in the third, 10 in the fourth. And when Alabama needed a stop, they had got it within 2 late in the fourth quarter. 4th and 1. 4th and 2.
There you go.
Game on the line. Vandy, what do they do? Little play action, rollout, touchdown to go up at the time 28-40, and then Bama got a touchdown, but then Vandy had to come back out on the field and pick up 2 first downs to win this game. They didn't just get 1 first down, they didn't get 2 first downs, they got 3 first downs to ice this game. They really took it to the Tide, and shocking. I did not expect this at all. I thought that it would be close. I should have bet Vandy to cover because I thought that this would be the closer of the two between Georgia and Alabama after that historic game last weekend. But this outright stone cold Steve Stunner, if you will.
Stone cold. Robert, remind me of the facts. This was Vandy's first win ever against the number 1 consensus number 1 team, correct?
Yeah. I mean, that's why, history's made. This weekend was the perfect weekend for college football watchers and a really bad weekend for anyone ranked inside the top 10. Top 11.
Are you counting Michigan, someone who shouldn't have been ranked? That was also
I don't count
Vandy's
Michigan because terrible.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Me too. Before we get to the other upsets, we had. This was also, they were 0-60. Was it AP top 25 or AP top 5?
AP 5, 0-60, AP 5 all time, and they had not beaten Alabama. Here's the kicker: they had not beaten Alabama in 40 years. 40 years now.
So
under
1984.
Under the Nick Saban era, they had only played Vandy 3 times because it's an East-West matchup, right? So they didn't play Vandy like every year. They didn't lose 40 straight years to Alabama. But in the Nick Saban era, the 3 times they met Vandy, they allowed Vanderbilt to score a grand total of 13 points. Vanderbilt scored 13 points in the first quarter on Saturday on their way to 40. So, yeah, it was a masterclass in scoring.
You got to give it to Vandy, and if we had more time, I'd probably do the whole podcast just on that whole game. Alas, we don't. OSU kind of going over just real quick. We're going to come back. There were some other games, but like OSU was the only top 10 team that didn't have a shaky time, besides maybe Oregon showing MSU who's the boss on Friday night. Over some other upsets that we should report on and let you know, because again, I feel like the average listener is more like me, likes college football, not necessarily a diehard like my other two lovely co-hosts. Syracuse upset UNLV on Friday night in overtime, 44-41. That was a really good game. I luckily had that on as well on Friday night. Jacksonville State did end up beating Kennesaw State. Only reason I bring that up is because they owned it and Robert made a pick.
Yeah.
Another Tennessee had an up in the middle of the state, but on the east of the state, out in Knoxville, they got upset by Arkansas, 19-14. Let's see. I know there was a couple other ones. Miami almost lost to Cal.
It was almost a bookend to a perfect day. College Game Day went to Berkeley, first time ever. That immediately, that show, very first minute, went off the rails. Like what Pat McAfee had, and I texted Robert this. I said, the College Game Day has entered into its attitude era. And if you don't know what that means, that's a WWE reference that I recently just learned watching the McMahon. Fascinating documentary, wild documentary. And WWE is a wild entertainment business. So I encourage everyone to learn more about WWE because I'm fascinated by it. But the attitude era is when they really kind of took off, when it was just off the rails. Anything was going, anything was possible. And so College Game Day has kind of gone off in a good way, has gone off the rails. And then you have the upset of Bama. You had 4 of the top 11 teams lose to unranked teams. Missouri got absolutely blown out by A&M. By the way, A&M is so hot right now. Then you had almost Miami losing
to Cal. There you go.
To bookend a perfect college football Saturday.
It was pretty good. Michigan had the best running night of the year and still lost by 10 to Washington later in the evening. Went through. Did they get 3 quarterbacks into the game? Because I think they did.
Well, they only got 2, but Tuttle was their third. So it was Orgy, and then they went to Tuttle. Okay. Robert, I would imagine you just stay with Tuttle at this point in time, right?
To be honest with you, I'm putting in campus-wide email to find me a goddamn quarterback at the University of Michigan.
Why wouldn't they try Davis?
I don't know. I don't know if it is just something where they're like, they just don't want to put him into a bad scenario. Because right now, Michigan is a very bad scenario. Because we're at a point where no quarterback that we put in there right now, minus JJ, is going to succeed with this offense.
This is not Davis Warren. This is
Jaden
Davis. Jaden Davis. He's the
who don't know,
4 5-star from this previous recruiting class. What kind of shocked me most about Michigan loss, and then let's move on because let's not harp on Michigan too much, as I get made fun of on TikTok. Apparently, everyone's making fun of me because all the Michigan gear, and they're like, "Well, who does he root for?" So very undisciplined, especially on defense. Like every year, you play a lot of man-to-man. That's fine. But when it's a check down in the flat or a swing route in the flat and you have one defender and the running back or the check down, you have to make that tackle. And Kerry gets so tired of me because I'll be sitting on the couch and I'll say out loud, make that tackle. And then it's a whiff and it's a gain of 15 yards, right? It's just so undisciplined, so unorganized. And I'm just not used to that. That being Michigan for the past 3 years. Before that, yeah, absolutely. They were missing tackles left and right. But that when you start missing tackles, that's kind of coaching, I think.
So remember when we had this conversation in the break room when you said about the kids are getting a lot of grief and stuff like that about like the betting and stuff like that, and people are harping at the kids, and it's like, yes, because we have people who are supposed to be making tackles. You're not making tackles. The most basic point of football is to make the tackle, and you'll have people like, oh, well, why don't you go tackle it? If you put me in a pair of pads at this point, I'm getting closer than I might not make the tackle, but I'm getting a hell of a lot closer than half these kids out there right now. Yeah. Makari Page can't catch a damn cold. Like
or cover a deep half. Yeah. You can't do either. Do one of the two.
He might as well be a D tackle at this point.
Yeah, you don't have any secondary in Michigan. It was Will Johnson who did the PI call, which would have won them the game had they not had the PI call on Washington, right? In the fourth quarter with 2 minutes left.
So yes, it was a PI, but then on the back half they roughed the passer anyway, so it was a first down either way.
We're supposed to have this dominant, stoic defensive line.
But again, but again, like, that's the undisciplined
bears.
The defensive line is the only the defensive line and the offensive line are the only people playing. But again, harp on Micaiah's. Listen. Don't listen. I don't know what to tell you.
Give it to him.
Robert, we're moving on.
We're at the highest of highs, and we are borderline playing like 2000 Indiana at this point, and the only reason we're ranked is because we won national championship last year.
That's such a deep cut. No one gets that reference.
2000 Indiana had a better passing game.
Yeah, they had a better everything at that point.
Dude, UMass is playing better football than us.
Hey, speaking of Indiana, though,
6-0, top of the... I don't know when the last time they were top of the Big Ten. If I was a good producer who knew this was going to come up,
probably 2020.
We will know 2020 so much about count, Indiana this week.
We'll get to this week in a little bit. I want to go over the rest. Saying. They weren't the only ones. Ole Miss actually finally did their job. Beat someone else. Boise State. We're going to get to them later for sure.
Ashton Jeanty for Heisman.
Ashton Jeanty went for 186. He already has 1,000 yards.
In one half. He didn't even play the second half.
Oh, he didn't even play. We were on week 6, and he already has 1,000 yards. So I'll be drafting him in my Dynasty League. Sorry, here we go. SMU upset Louisville.
Yeah.
Did the job there.
And top of the ACC right now is SMU.
And I don't know if there's any other game we really care about that was technically an upset. There was one unranked game that I cared about, but I don't remember what it was. So here we are.
How is Nebraska not ranked right now?
Great transition, Micaiah. Oh, JMU lost to UN Monroe. That's who it was.
Oh, well, that's actually a pretty big upset.
Yeah. Okay. How's Nebraska not ranked right now, Robert?
How are they not? Because they losing to Illinois on an away game, or as a home game. Obviously, it was only 2 weeks ago.
But they're better than Michigan right now. Like, obviously, I think we think.
Oh my God, Purdue's better than Michigan right now.
That's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true.
Listen. You watch those games right now, and you're like, they have an offense. What's that?
They just fired the defensive coordinator. Shout out.
No, they fired their offensive coordinator.
Oh, was it?
I
forget we're borderline getting ready to fire Wink at this point.
They might. We'll see. I mean, after Robert Saleh got
this was
fired.
Hey, let's bring in Robert Saleh. Maybe he can do it, right?
Okay, let's go over real quick before we play our game of the week. Let's just kind of go over where we're at from a conference standing perspective. We went a little bit over the AP. Army and Navy are atop of the American Athletic Conference at 5-0.
Come on, Army, Navy, go undefeated.
Conference, they're 3-0 and 4-0 respectively, which technically puts Army at the top. 5-0 for the first time since 1945.
Simultaneously, they've been one was 2017, one was 1997.
I think we had blown up Japan by then. So I think that was the first graduating class that. And that's a true history fun fact.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Not,
It is.
not wrong. That's the first class that was back since World War II. So that's the time that we have. Feel free to jump in anyway here. Clemson, Robert, Mackay, and I were talking this before the mics warmed up. Clemson is currently atop of the ACC.
The Mustangs, though, in technically third, but right behind them, 2-0. Clemson, Miami, SMU. Oh, sneak attack. Who is that in fourth? Is that the Virginia Cavaliers, who everyone thought was going to be garbage?
All right.
Yes.
Don't. Come on.
They're 2-0. They're 4-1. They're 4-1.
2-0 in the conference. Okay,
Yeah.
and they beat
I'm not
Boston
saying-
College.
Dude, they're not going to be up here for long. We might as well just give them a little shout out why they're up here, okay?
No, I'm not giving any college from Virginia a shout out.
Okay, well, that's a little rude.
That is a little rude. But, it is Charlottesville. White guys like to walk around there. That's all I'm going to say.
Is the more Michigan loses, your mood's just going to get more sour and sour?
Yeah.
You knew that this was a possibility.
Yikes.
Yeah, I just didn't think I was going to go from on top of the castle to into the dungeon by week 6.
Now, see, Robert, you and I really had a different understanding when Jim Harbaugh went to L.A. I immediately said they're going to be 132nd. We're going straight back down to the basement.
I thought they would at
opened the
least
door and
gave
picked up an
me,
end.
I at least thought by maybe, I don't know, the Oregon game, we'd still be ranked in the top 25.
Hey, we still could.
We still could.
We're not
Davis
there
Ward
yet.
could get it together.
We are going to
don't know.
get railroaded by Illinois.
Oh, he yelled so hard he
And
froze.
see, you are frozen for me.
Yeah.
And you have a nice little smile.
Well, you're frozen
and I
for
like
us,
that
too.
smile.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
no,
to be fair to
we're
Robert's
away
points,
at Illinois.
Virginia has lost to Maryland. They beat everyone else, but they have Louisville this weekend, Clemson the weekend after, North Carolina, Pitt, Notre Dame, SMU, Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Maryland's kind of a bad loss.
So, womp womp. Hey, Pittsburgh's ranked, though, for some reason. They're 5-0.
Yeah. How about
they're ranked-
Pittsburgh, right?
They're getting 3 points against who? California this weekend. They have they're a 3-point favorite this weekend against Cal.
Let's go.
So take that for what it's
Big
worth.
12, raise your hand if you had the Red Raiders
Not me.
top of the Big
Who would've
12
thought?
currently.
Not me.
BYU, Iowa State. By the way, I didn't think they would be any good, and they might be the best Big 12 team. Then Robert's favorite team, the Colorado Buffaloes, hanging in there.
So Colorado's only played 2 conference games. Can I ask? I mean, technically they all have besides Texas Tech. But can I ask you a question here, Micaiah? Also, Oklahoma State 0-3 in conference.
Also, how is
Yikes.
West Virginia 2-0 in conference? I thought they were bad. That's just me
Here's
thinking. What's your question?
Well, they played Kansas, which turns out is a layup for every team in the NCAA now.
Back.
And they played Oklahoma
It's
State.
gone back to being a layup.
Yeah, well, Oklahoma State apparently is also another
layup.
slam dunk.
Yeah, so.
They're on a 5-game losing streak. Kansas is. All right. What surprises you more?
Unreal.
Iowa State
You're
5-0
salty.
with 2-0 sitting there, or the Kansas Jayhawks in last place.
Uh-huh.
Which one surprises you more?
That's a
Wait, I'm sorry. Kansas and who? I didn't hear I was laughing at Robert. Who's the first team?
Iowa State. What surprises you more? Iowa State or Kansas, basically, with where they're at.
Kansas for sure. I thought Kansas was almost a lock to make the Big 12 title game. Listen, if you would have told me, hey, Iowa State at the beginning of the year is going to be 5-0, I'm like, okay, Matt Campbell's actually a decent coach. Yeah, Iowa State always finds a way to win and blah, 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 and blah. But the fact that Kansas is on a 5-game just in the dumps, you can't do anything right. You're turning the ball over. You can't play defense. Your offense, you're losing last second because your defense sucks, even though your offense, just did not expect that from Lance Leipold in that game. So Kansas.
Indiana's atop of the Big Ten right now just because they have 6 wins. 3 wins in conference. Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State kind of round out there.
Who's Indiana playing this week?
Which is hilarious
Nebraska.
because because isn't that on your preview list, Micaiah?
It's not. It should be. You're going to find out a lot about the top 4 in the Big Ten this weekend, won't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
To answer. Sorry.
Yeah.
Someone's got to answer your question.
Wasn't
Yes,
a rhetorical question. Needed someone to answer that.
I had to look at who the top 4 in the Big Ten were for a minute.
So it's Penn State, who's ranked 4th right now, playing USC at USC. We're gonna cover that game. And I'm trying to find other games.
Indiana's at Nebraska, I think, or is it the other way?
Yeah. No, I think they're at Nebraska.
Oh, they're at home. So Indiana hosts Nebraska, and Ohio State travels to Oregon. So first of all, we're going to get a good look at Ohio State, see what happens when you get punched in the mouth. Indiana finally matches up against someone who can match them in the trenches. And Penn State is actually kind of the same with USC. Now, USC, yes,
shaky.
Two losses, 2 big programs that like to pound the football, but they're much improved, and they're at home. Their 2 losses on the road in hostile environments, both stripe-out games for both Minnesota and Michigan that they lost to. Now they get to do the stripe-out, except they're not doing that. They get to host Penn State going on the road first time this year. Well,
Let's go,
they went
baby.
to Morgantown, but
Liberty is the top is tied with the Sam Houston Bearcats for Conference USA. Eastern Michigan currently all of the MAC has only played 1 conference game, so they're technically there's like 6 games tied. But Eastern Michigan's 4-1, so they're tied with Toledo, who's also 4-1.
Now Akron Zips holding down the bottom.
Holding down the bottom of the barrel per usual. Mountain West is a little interesting. San Jose State is 2-0 in conference, which puts them at top, but they're tied basically with Boise State at 4-1 with the UNLV running Rebs kind of on their tails. They played a non-conference game loss against. So
Ashton Genty for Heisman.
That could kind of go any one of those 3 ways. We're a little bit surprised. Pac-12, really, really competitive right now. Both 0-0 in conference, so not 100% sure who's going to be able to pull that one out, but hey.
You know, the schedule makers for this they played their conference game, their one and only conference game, the second to last week. Why would you not put that as your last week of the season game?
Week. Yeah, because you both already played your rivalry games.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. But A&M topped the SEC.
I was just about to get that. Who the F, after that loss to Notre Dame, who would have thought that A&M was going to be atop of the SEC? That is the fastest rising stock in all of college football right now.
Remember
A&M.
how last week during the pick section, how me and Robert both had Missouri over A&M, and I said, Robert, it's a good thing for you. And he said, no, it's not. It's a bad thing for you. Well, turned out to be a terrible thing for me.
Told you, brother.
That game wasn't even close. Robert, just real quick, were you shocked by how unclose that game was? A&M, Missouri.
He's frozen. There he is.
Hey.
Now he's back. A&M,
crazy.
Missouri, how shocked were you?
Yeah, I was almost more shocked with that game than I was with the Bama Vanderbilt game, just because of the scale of it. Like A&M they were pretty much done with that game at halftime. I was like, okay, this is that. Like, what happened to Missouri?
They got punched in the mouth and just decided, I'm good. Like you said, I mean, that's it.
Home.
Yeah.
That team was just bad.
It was you and I texting, and I said, is Brady Cook actually like really bad? Like, he was actually pretty good last year, but now he's like really, I mean, he missed wide open receivers all game.
Like, I just assumed that, like I had Luther Burden as, I was like, yep, Luther Burden's going to be the guy, and he was going to be my Biletnikoff winner. And then it's like, no, just kidding. They just don't play at all.
To finish this out before we play our little game, Coastal Carolina, they're still the Fun Belt is still split up into into divisions, so they have an East and the West. Coastal Carolina is at the top of the East because JMU lost to the top of the West, who is 2-0 in conference. But there are 4-1 teams, JMU being one of them, so it's not over for JMU. However, they do have to face Coastal Carolina this weekend, so it could be after this weekend. We'll see. Also, UL Monroe's only loss is to Texas currently. So looking pretty good for them. Okay. Micaiah had a really good idea. And when Micaiah has a really good idea, we tend to give him a treat like he's a dog, so he keeps having them.
Good boy.
I got a little bit of a snicker for the joke, so I'll take it. We're going to play a fun little game here before to kind of go over and give you a week 6. We've seen 6 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever you want to call it, of college football. And we have a few teams on a list that we put together. And this is the game we're going to play. If I could upgrade one position, that would definitely, it would make me relax. It would get the team over the hump. It would make them the 2024 Texas team or the 2023 Michigan team. What position would that be? Quarterbacks, cornerbacks, defensive line, tight ends, freaking fullbacks, punters are people too, if we really want to get into it. It's a pretty long list, so we're going to go back and forth between the two guys, and we'll see where we come up with. We're going to start with the preseason favorites to win the Big Ten. Now we're not so sure. It's the Oregon Ducks. Robert.
What does Oregon need? It's a great question because I kind of think they just need better game plans. I don't know if it's actually a position they need to upgrade or they just need a fire under themselves. Because they're not a bad team. They just start slow. And that's what keeps the teams in the game. But I don't think they need a position. Just they need a fire under their ass is what it is.
So let me ask you this question. If they lose to Ohio State, are they immediately going down or are they bouncing back from the Ohio State loss this weekend?
I still think they bounce back because I don't think their schedule is anything to bat their eyes at. I think they'll be fine. They just need some help at that point. It'll come in the form of the Ohio State Penn State game.
Well, speaking of Micaiah, Penn State's looked really shaky. We're not a 10-2 team, as James Franklin said before this. They seem to have the most skill and they're the old men on campus. It feels like everybody's been on the team, has been around for a while. What do they need if they were to upgrade a position right now?
If they were to upgrade a position group, it would be wide receiver. I feel like their schemes are getting their wide receiver open, not necessarily their wide receivers themselves. Plus, Andrew Aller, the wide receiver group, Andrew Aller, just aren't on the same page right now. And whether you want to blame Aller or blame the wide receivers, you could go either way. But I'm not seeing a ton of separation. And when I do see separation, it's because Andy Kotelnicki has drawn up some diabolical plays, and that's kind of what get them open. So I'm going with the wide receiver group at Penn State.
Damn. Sorry, Robert just hit us with the most expensive ticket, which we'll get to in a little bit. It's the most expensive on the year by far. Well, actually, let's go over to the SEC. Little bit. I don't want to give it away because I always like surprising people. Ole Miss. This is a game. They have a late night game too this week. It's the 7:30 ABC. Is that? Are they going to Baton Rouge? Is College Game Day going to Baton Rouge? Anybody?
No,
know?
They're going to Eugene,
Oregon.
They're going to Oregon. Okay, so Baton Rouge. They're taking on LSU. I'm going to give you both the people. Also, over under on that game 63.5. Makai, I'm giving you LSU. Robert, I'm giving you Ole Miss. Robert, you can go first. I think since Micaiah went.
They need a better run game. They have an okay run game, but if they have a better running back, I think they are well in the more of a driver's seat. I mean, they have a who was doing this?
Oh no, sorry, that was my bad.
All right.
We're both fidgeters.
Parrish is doing very well for them. I mean, he does have 570 yards and 9 touchdowns, so he's kind of a scoring machine. But if they had just a breakout running back at this point, like Quinshon Judkins, if he would have stayed, I mean,
I was about to say that.
There's no doubt in my mind Ole Miss would have not they wouldn't have lost one game, and they probably would be like almost a favorite to win the SEC at this point, minus Texas.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna kind of copy because the problems are still similar. How I'm gonna go a little more in depth with the running game for LSU, and what I mean by that is I'm gonna say offensive line for LSU. They're supposed to have 2 NFL tackles, and their NFL tackles are making freshman level mistakes, and they're both like juniors and seniors, and they're not running the football. And yeah, they can pass block, but they just can't generate any sort of consistent running game to the point where a true freshman has breaking tackles and is taking on the Superman role to generate some sort of run game for LSU. So kind of similar situations, but I'm actually going to go with offensive line rather than the running back.
Yeah, kind of. I bet. I really do bet that Ole Miss is missing Judkins, who's up at Ohio State.
Well done.
Did I get it right? Sorry. Is that what you're saying? Nice, well done?
Yeah, because your Old Miss is missing. Yeah, I like that.
I didn't try that. I was more afraid that I was going to get. I still remember the Devontae Smith fiasco, calling him every other name besides his first name.
Yeah.
So,
the Devontae Smith fiasco.
It was the entire year. Do you remember that?
It was the entire year. Even after he won the Heisman, you still Devonta Smith. Devion Smith. Yeah, everything but Devontae.
But, all right. I'm interested in kind of like the team that we think about at the beginning of the year, then we don't, is Notre Dame. Can they make a comeback? I think they're at 11th right now.
Yeah, they're fine.
Can they get back? I mean, yeah, we know they have a super soft schedule, but
yeah, that there's no comeback needed when you have a schedule like that.
Yeah, but there is kind of in perception land, right?
Well, especially they play Army and Navy, so the more Army and Navy win, they look better. They need USC to kind of not fall off and not be unranked.
AKA not lose to Penn State this weekend?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a good start.
But, I mean, like Florida State, trash. Virginia right now, I get it. It's Virginia right now, and they could fall off between now and then Georgia Tech. So their schedule isn't overly soft. But, yeah, I mean, they can make a comeback, absolutely. They're going to figure out how to throw the football, though. Well, they're technically better than Michigan, but...
Amen, brother.
That's besides the point.
I'm super interested to see what kind of happens with which one of those teams. It's not necessarily Notre Dame, but like the Virginia-like team that sneaks into the playoff that we don't see coming. Because one of these years, it's gonna be the Boise State with an Aston. Sorry, he's an Aston Martin for sure. Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's build off of that. Last name. Give me the last name.
I got Genty down.
Now first name.
Probably Ashton.
There you
go.
go.
He has a white guy name. I had a joke, and I decided to bite my tongue instead.
Good job. Good job.
We're trying not to get canceled here on the More Than One podcast. I don't know. Robert Mackay, you guys have to be thinking one or two other teams that are just like, dude, if you had this piece... And I'm curious on what the teams are because there's so many that are missing so much. Like Mackay, you have on the list here, like Utah. If Utah had a quarterback,
right. Utah's kind of obvious if you had a quarterback, right? I think Oklahoma. Also, Oklahoma. If Oklahoma had a quarterback, I think Oklahoma because their defense. Oklahoma actually finally has a defense. But now they just don't have an offense. right now. Robert, what would you upgrade with A&M?
With A&M, it would have to be on the defensive side of the ball, I think, because their offense is clicking. But oh, gosh, I would go. I would just try to bump up their defensive line, keep getting more pressure, and that's going to help them a lot more, I think, especially when they have to play like Alabama and stuff like that.
Clemson, are you replacing Klubnik or the wide receivers? Because they actually kind of have a little bit of wide receivers over Klubnik. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then Bama, I'm doing the secondary. The DBs, both safeties and corners, but they're just
their
getting
secondary's not good.
shredded currently. And then last one, Simeon.
Yeah.
Tennessee, Simeon and Robert. Tennessee.
I didn't. Go ahead, Robert. You seem to have an answer. I didn't watch the game this weekend.
I had a different team that I was thinking of. So, but I mean,
what team were you thinking of?
Georgia. What would you fix on Georgia?
Okay. All right. Let me think.
It's a pretty glaring, obvious answer, to be honest.
You think?
100%.
I mean, I was going to say wide receiver or tight end.
It's not where I would go.
Would you go quarterback?
Nope.
Running back.
Running back.
Again, would you go running back or offensive line, though?
You know,
like, is this a bigger...
Trevor Etienne is not good.
I don't mean to be rude. I watched the highlight. This is my one take that I'm going to have on Georgia. They're known for their defense, i.e. the Philadelphia Bulldogs that currently is the Philadelphia defense. I saw a left tackle on Ohio State take on a blitzing linebacker and a defensive end in one arm. He blocked both of them in the Georgia-Alabama game. I don't think Georgia's problem is their offense. They seem to score pretty well. I honestly think it is their defense just does not have the bite that it used to. And I think we go back and forth every year on a defensive-offensive pendulum. And I think we're on an offensive pendulum where the offenses have just figured out defenses, and so we're waiting for someone to fail. So in this case, I'm going to take their defensive line, to be quite frank. Watch me not know the stats and them have like the most sacks in the NCAA right now.
I want to find out what they're running for a game, so you guys can continue because
I don't know the answer for Tennessee.
Tennessee, I would probably say receiver. Because, again, their defense is getting a lot of pressure. They have 9 sacks on the year, and it's a pretty spread out, like, sack room. It's not like it's just one person. But, I mean, receiving, like, they definitely spread the ball out a lot. They have 10-plus receivers right now that have at least caught one ball, but they only have 4 that are over 100 yards receiving. And it seems like their main guy, 8 catches, 284, so he's averaging 35.5. So he's kind of the home run hitter, but everyone else is like mid-distance.
That's Thornton, right?
Thornton is their big,
Yeah.
But like everyone else is kind of like just mid 14, 12, 10, 10. Like,
Robert, just real quick, back to Georgia. Here, if I'm a Bulldogs fan, here's what concerns me. You are easily in the top 20 every year in rushing. You're 95th in rushing yards,
dude. Right?
So I'm sure it's a combination of running back.
It's always a combination,
right?
But...
It's always a combination. So I'm fine if you want to replace a running back. You've got to fix that if you're going to compete. I think Michigan has proved that. You have to have a running game in order to win the national title. And Georgia, you don't have one right now. You are 95th in the country. That's embarrassing for SEC's quote-unquote top dog, even though you're not right now. You're losing out to a border collie to only be 95th in the country in rushing. That was a good line, by the way.
So Georgia has... I can't find...
Thank you.
I can't find the team, like who's leading, what team is leading right now. Georgia has 11 sacks on the year so far. There's one guy, is he the Boston College guy, who has 9 by himself? So I would
Old Miss
say
leads in sacks with 24. Boise State, Virginia Tech Hokies, Texas State, and then the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
yeah. So you have 11 sacks on the year, with how many interceptions? You have 11 pass deflections, 2 interceptions on the year, 3 forced fumbles. Obviously, I don't know what you're allowing per game, but where's your defense, Georgia? Where's that vaunted Georgia D that we're worried about every year, or at least people used to be? I guess I don't know. Did my transition sound effect play?
Nope, sure didn't.
Oh, it's broken. Love that for me.
Broken.
Broken. All right, we're gonna move on because we're 40 minutes into this, and quite frankly, I'm not learning anything, and I should be.
Oh, whose fault is that?
Mine. It's mine. Listen, you guys have a different hobby than I do. We got some good games after coming up this week. After a very intense week of upsets, we got some really good ranked on ranked. Micaiah, this is like your wheelhouse. Just take it from me. You talk with Robert. Okay?
Okay, all right. The Red River rivalry, where number 1 Texas and number 18 Oklahoma meet again. This is a rivalry unlike any other, where half of it's crimson, half of it is burnt orange, and it is split right down the middle at the 50-yard line, goes all the way around the stadium. It's going to be a very interesting game. Texas, I would assume Quinn Ewers is going to be back. Robert, I don't know.
Great question.
I don't know if you've seen anything, but I would assume that it's going to be back. This is 3:30 on ESPN. Oklahoma's biggest problem right now is quarterback. I would assume that they are going to go with the freshman Michael Hawkins, who played at Auburn. This is more of a neutral site game feel, but they are not getting the running game going at all. So I feel like Oklahoma, again, winning with defense and finding just enough offense to kind of keep pace, which is a polar opposite from what Oklahoma was in the past, when it was winning with offense and finding just enough defense to be able to keep pace. Meanwhile, Texas is probably the best team in the country, arguably the best team in the country, and you're going to see them both in action between Ohio State and Texas on Saturday. Texas, let's just say Quinn Ewers is going to be back. That's a big boost for them. They are
Dave Wilson.
He is.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. They're
Steve.
10th. They're 10th in passing. They're 39th in rushing. Their defense is top 10 in both points for, points against, yards, all that. They're 7th in points for with 45 per game. Robert, they're on the surface. There's no way Oklahoma can even compete. But that's been the last 3 years, and Oklahoma always shows up. What are you expecting from the Red River rivalry?
Well, if there's anything we've known, it will be that Texas will probably jump out to, I'll say 21-0 lead. And then for whatever reason, Texas takes their foot off the gas. And Oklahoma kind of gets they'll get a normal drive touchdown. Then they get a turnover, and then they'll get another touchdown. And then all of a sudden we're back to a 7-point game. And then it turns into this dog fight, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I do expect Texas to obviously win by at least 10 to 14. But I think we'll see a big surge for Texas, because it'll just be that big time. Your celebs will be there. Your Matthew McConaughey will be there. I'm sure Caleb Williams will show up. Not Caleb Williams. Kyler. I'm sure Kyler will be there. So it's maybe Baker. Baker shows up or whatever. But I expect Texas to eventually run away with it.
So a little later in the evening, It is number 2 Ohio State, a team that we have not seen play anyone at this point in time, or anyone that can even remotely keep pace with them. They traveled to Eugene to take on the number 3 Oregon Ducks, who we have seen kind of stumble. It all started week 1 versus Idaho, and then Boise kept pace, and they were actually losing to Boise. And then they blew out Oregon State and blew out UCLA and kind of handled business against Michigan State, so they're finding their stride a little bit. But in comes the $20 million team. That is the Ohio State Buckeyes, who are 14th in rushing and 23rd in passing and 1st in defense and 4th in points for. And they just have a high-powered offense with Chip Kelly and Will Howard and Quinshon Judkins, and down the list of superstars we go. And Eugene just doesn't even stand a chance, right? Because the Ducks are stumbling and bumbling, and Dylan Gabriel's turning the ball over. They're 19th in passing and 67th in rushing. And, their defense is kind of hanging in there, allowing 17 points a game. Robert, what does Oregon have to do to be able to keep pace with this vaunted, high-profile, high-salary Ohio State roster?
Punch them in the mouth. You punch Ohio State in the mouth, and they will crumble like they do every single year. That is the difference. And we've seen it when Penn State plays Ohio State. The game is usually closer because Penn State comes out, punches them in the face. They play Michigan. Michigan punches them in the face. It's going to be a track meet. 100%. This will be a track meet. They will go up and down the field. This will be a defensive nightmare if you love defense.
You think?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because Ohio State's defense has not been tested. At least not against speed. They've been tested against brute strength with Iowa, and that obviously doesn't work because they have a $20 million team. So you would now have a team with Oregon that is fast, and they're going to go fast. Iowa does not go fast. Michigan State does not go fast. They think fast, but don't go fast. Oregon likes to go fast. Ohio State likes to go fast. Both of these teams just like to go fast. We're going to see who's going to, and it's going to come down to who misses the field goal. Who misses that one field goal, because someone gets one stop and they will miss that field goal. I just like Oregon in this scenario just because Oregon likes to go fast.
A sister network will have on number 9 Ole Miss, the Runnin' Rebs. They go ahead and travel all the way down to Baton Rouge, or I guess technically over, because they're both down to Baton Rouge. I guess it would be down to Baton Rouge for a night game at LSU in quote unquote the best environment in college football. That's not me. That's all the sports writers. Ole Miss is fighting for their college football playoff lives right now. After a shocking loss to Kentucky 2 weeks ago, they responded in a big way against South Carolina. I thought their defense wouldn't show up. Their defense showed up in a big way. And shockingly enough, Ole Miss's defense has been showing up all year to the tune of 7.5 points per game. It's their offense that needs to catch up when they're not playing inferior teams. They're 2nd in passing, 24th in rushing, but they only put up 17 against Kentucky and 27 against South Carolina, no matter how many machine guns were pumped into the face of Jackson Dart. They just can't seem to get it together. That's a great joke. You both should laugh. Meanwhile, the LSU Tigers, they also have a loss on the season, but this came out of conference to USC. They're 7th in passing. Here's their problem. Again, we talked about it, 96th in rushing. New running back or new O-line, they need to find one or the other, and they need to stick to it. Their defense, not that great. 48th so far in the nation. However, they have been playing better competition. Big comeback win against South Carolina. Held off UCLA. Simeon's upset of the week was not even close, and they just hammered South Alabama 42-10. Robert, I want you to keep this short. I want you to keep this sweet. Are we in for a game of the year with this game?
No, it's not going to be a game of the year.
I'm taking the over.
I'm short, sweet, to the point. No. Yeah, you take the over, but it's going to be more lopsided. Like an Ole Miss plays pissed off and beats LSU at home kind of thing.
Are we under follow-up question, and then we'll move on? Are we underrating Old Miss's defense?
Yeah, because no one's talking about them. So yeah, you're definitely underrating them because obviously all we're talking about is like Ohio State. We're talking about Alabama, we're talking about Georgia, but we're not talking about the other not dark horse, but horse in the race.
So then we go to a conference and a network in a time slot that will make one big, bad, powerful conference just cringe because they had this network and time slot all to themselves for a decade plus. And that would be Penn State and USC on 3:30 on CBS. Penn State goes on the road for the second time. They were in Morgantown, West Virginia, week 1. They blew out West Virginia in the second half, played Bowling Green, played them tough. Kent State doesn't count. Close game with Illinois. They kind of messed around, and then UCLA did the same. They are 57th in passing. Their defense is top 10 in the country in points allowed, and they're rushing the ball for 18th best in the country. They play on a USC team who I think is a lot better than what people give them credit for, because yes, they should have beat Michigan. We all recognize that, but they showed that they can play big boy football. Then they played big boy football against Wisconsin, blew them out, and then they went on the road to Minnesota to play big boy football again, and it just did not go well for them.
No one knows.
A 24-17 loss. They're top 20 in passing, 78th in rushing. Their defense is top 30 in the entire country. Robert, can USC really host a big team from the Big Ten and get it done on Saturday afternoon?
Oh, absolutely. As long as they take care of the ball. They don't turn the ball over. They do it, and just let Penn State's offense flounder like it usually does in the first half. They can build the lead on Penn State, and Penn State, they don't play very well from behind.
How good is Penn State's defense? Because it's looked decent.
Not as good as last year, and last year's defense was very good. This defense this year is not as good. They're still a decently good defense, but against any sizable, like Ohio State should mop up that defense hands down.
Okay, and then finally, we're going to go out west, out night. We're going to do a little Big 12 after dark. 10:15 ESPN. Robert may stay up for this, may fall asleep, then wake up for second half, just like he did with Miami Cal.
Amen, brother.
And this is for the Kansas State Wildcats and Colorado Buffaloes. Listen, I said I wasn't talking about Colorado again until they showed that they'll actually stick with a run game and run. Well, over the last 2 games, they've ran it a little more consistently. Now, they're still 126th in the nation. They're 9th in passing. Their defense has improved. They're 62nd in points allowed with 23, and they're scoring at about 31 points a game. Their only loss came in a 28-10 kind of beatdown. It wasn't even that close to Nebraska. Beat Colorado State, Hail Mary to beat Baylor, and then UCF actually turned the ball over about 3 or 4 times in that game. So that game was a lot closer than what people give it credit for. Kansas State Wildcats, I expected kind of more for them. And they kind of showed it early, what I expected. They beat UT Martin, Tulane. They dispatched Arizona in a dominant way. And then they went on the road to BYU at night. And BYU said, you know what? We don't do that disgusting act, but we will soak you. Get my joke there?
Hey,
and so,
that one I get.
And so they just soaked all over Kansas State in a 38-9 blowout. And then Kansas State hosted Oklahoma State and blew them out by 22. Now, Oklahoma State, not very good. So, both of these teams, Robert,
They
have
shook the bed
shown...
against Kansas State would have been a better joke there, just letting you know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both of these teams have kind of been this, right? Against good competition, they're good. Against bad competition, they're... Which one... They're about the same. Which one is actually good?
I don't know enough about Kansas State. I would honestly say Kansas State, because Kansas State is more of a team, like a full team, where Colorado, they still got to figure out that defense, and they still got to figure out that run game consistently. So probably Kansas State.
Kansas State 7th in the nation in rushing, 108th in passing with 180 yards per game. They're 53rd in points for, and they allow about 19.5 points per game. You like Kansas State still?
Yeah,
Okay.
because we still don't know Colorado.
Yeah,
Like
that's fair.
If they go and they beat Kansas State convincingly, then okay, Colorado can be taken seriously. But if they lose this game, it's like, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, Dion still can't win a decent against a decent team.
All right, so Simeon, check back
Hey.
in here. Check back in for me.
I real quick.
Yep.
Super relatives. I want to go over them because there's some interesting things, but I'm checking back in.
Okay, real quick, you need to pay attention here because I'm asking you. I want winners from each one of you. Texas, Oklahoma.
Texas.
Ohio State, Oregon.
Oregon.
Ohio State.
Yeah, I agree with Simeon there. Ole Miss, LSU.
Ole Miss.
That one. These are two teams. I know this was supposed to be quick. These are two teams that both love to shrink in big game situations. And
Ole Miss has the better defense pick.
Yeah, Ole Miss. I'll give them
Okay.
Ole Miss. Yeah.
Penn State, USC.
Penn State.
USC.
I could go either way. I'm going to say USC just because they're at home. And finally, Kansas State, Colorado.
Kansas State.
Kansas State.
Okay. Simeon, do your superlatives, and then let's do locks of the week.
But this is just very interesting because we're at week 6, and we normally don't care about the superlatives, but in this case we do, and I kind of want to go down them a little bit here. Best unis we don't care about. I was wrong with Colorado. Best offense, we're going to get to the end of the year. Best defense, Robert, you had Michigan. Me and Micaiah both had Georgia. We're both wrong. Best head coach, Kalen DeBoer, still yet to prove himself. Same thing with Starks. Best coordinator, Chip Kelly, trending in the right direction. Heisman, also not trending in the right direction for any of us. Ewers, Shedeur, and Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart's still in there.
He might get in the finals.
But Genty's at this point. Genty's got to be running. away with it.
At least
literally.
us. Biggest impact player, non-quarterback, Ollie Gordon. Completely wrong from there. Whoever the frick Caleb Downs is he one of the Ohio State
safety?
You could make the argument he's been pretty impactful.
Okay, so we'll leave him. We'll be nice. We'll leave him.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Most improved, Iowa's offense, Micaiah.
I mean, from where it was last year, yeah, it's a huge improvement. I'm
had
not
you-
wrong there.
I had USC as a whole. This is where it kind of starts to get good.
You're
in
not
my
wrong there
perspective.
either right now.
Biggest disappointment, Micaiah, you had Ohio State, currently wrong. I had JMU, extremely wrong. Robert had the playoff committee, too early to tell. The Graham Harrell Award for most likely to get fired by week 6. Sam Pittman kept his job by upsetting this weekend. James Franklin, we'll see. It's week 6. We're going to see. If he loses to USC,
He's not going to be fired, but okay.
but like we'll start to hear rumblings. Just my most overhyped player, Travis Hunter and Quinn Ewers. I don't think Travis Hunter's been overhyped. I mean, he was, but I think he's lived up to it. So I think that was more what it is. This is we did this whole thing to get us to this point right here. Highest scoring game, Robert, OU Texas. Micaiah, SMU TCU, which I believe was last week, was it not?
It was 2 weeks ago.
No.
Yeah, I'll look that up. Hang on.
It was not. No, I will just let you know right now. It's nowhere close. Yeah, no.
It was like 35-38. It was decently high
I
scoring,
don't
but
think
yeah.
it was.
It was 35-38.
Okay, well, Tennessee Ole Miss did 70 by themselves. So, Robert, you have a chance. You have a shot here.
Wait a minute.
What?
TCU SMU 66-42.
Oh, wait, hold up. We got
108 points.
All right, Micaiah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
on
right.
me.
Apologize.
I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. Biggest surprising teams. This is the impressive one. We'll start with from least to most impressive on the call here. Least impressive, Michigan State, Micaiah. Sorry, that was your call.
Least
this is
impressive?
biggest surprising team.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Michigan
Yeah.
State was not surprising.
Okay.
Nebraska, Robert, good job. They're doing a pretty good job right now through
Hell
week
yeah.
6. And I'm going to take full effing credit for this one. I'm going to rub it in your smug ass faces for both of you. Indiana is what Simeon said would be the biggest surprising team. Y'all are welcome. Let's go to Pick'ems, boys. Pew, 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 pew.
All right. Well, these are the locks of the week. And if you know anything about the locks of the week, you know to stay away from Simeon and Robert and only follow my
I'm
picks.
sorry. Who went 2-1 and 3-0 the week
Yeah,
before?
but who's 8-10 currently, and who's 12-6?
Who is also shooting nothing but layups?
Yeah,
Dude.
that's true.
Simeon.
Listen,
The past 2
it's
weeks
obviously
has
Simeon.
done nothing but layups.
Listen, sometimes you shoot for completions
Hey,
percentage. and
listen,
just
sometimes when you
jack up
can't get a
threes.
bucket, Rob,
Yeah.
you just need to see one go through the hoop, you know?
Yeah.
I'm still shooting threes.
You're shooting blanks is what you're doing.
Hey yo!
One
So I
and
am
two.
I am 12-6.
Yeah.
Simeon's 8-10 shooting layups. Robert's actually trying to grind this thing out and not doing a terrible job. He is 11-7. So I got to pick it up. Simeon's got to stop just being a little pussy and shooting layups, and Robert's got to keep doing what Robert's doing.
Reminder that the loser of this, he's not wrong. The loser of this by championship weekend, so this is a regular season thing, has to do that championship weekend pod in their underwear. So right now it is Robert, but I am coming back. Carrie was making you money last year, still kind of is 3-2 last week. She's 17-13 for the year. Also, quick update. UTSA takes on Rice this week, which is the second Owl Gauntlet game. They're currently 1-0. Micaiah, give me your first pick.
All right, listen, we kind of already talked about it. LSU Old Miss. I said could be game of year thing. I don't know why I had under there because this game is gonna be an over, everybody. Over 64.5. And now I'm remembering why I took the under. It's because I was impressed with Old Miss's defense. Yeah, I was. But you know what? I changed my mind because
you always are impressed by a big D.
I know I am. Give me the under. Listen, LSU knows how to score the points. Old Miss knows how to score the points. LSU doesn't defend very well. And plus, we are due for a Lane Kiffin shootout at some point in time. So give me the over. 64.5.
That over is really good because the two teams, like LSU's known for getting themselves into a shootout too. So
Yeah.
if they're due, it's gonna be this one.
It's got to be.
I'm going to jump straight to my game that no one's going to watch, and that's for two reasons. First of all, Ashton Genty, they turn around and they hand the man the ball. The other reason why is it's Hawaii, and the third reason why is because it's on at like 11:59 at night. Boise State minus 20.5 against Hawaii. Dude, they're going to be up 3 by halftime. They're going to be up 3 scores by halftime. So give me Boise State. Here's a non-layup for you, Robert. Minus 20.5.
Oh my! It's Hawaii, Simeon.
Roll
Dude,
right into your pick, my dude.
I find the money.
Ugh.
I find the W. I make
All
you
right.
money. I
Well,
make you money.
I guess I'll do my game that probably no one is going to watch. Noontime, CBS Sports Network. We have the Army Black Knights going up against the University of Alabama Birmingham Blazers. Army, I have them minus 24.5. I'm taking that.
They've done it.
From downtown Charlie Brown, I'm taking them.
So I'm just going to jump right in here. I'm also picking back off of the Army UAB game. However,
Damn it.
no, not taking the same, not taking the same pick, not taking the same
I'm
pick.
losing then.
I'm going to take the over 54.5. Army is so impressive right now. Army and Navy. They're both kind of running this triple option shotgun, throwing it, running it. Quarterbacks are really good right now. So I need Army to, I think Army puts up like 40. I need just UAB. Just come in with a little 2 touchdowns. Just 2 touchdowns, maybe a field goal, 40-17. I'm good. Then me and Robert both win. Simeon probably loses because, it's not an easy layup. So let's go over Army UAB 54.5.
So I think, Makai, you're more likely to lose this game, to win this than Robert is for the 24.5, because I think UAB is better than we give them credit for.
Listen, I went 1-2 last week. My only win was the Army over. So of course I'm going back to that well. Of course
to be fair, I took Army straight up last week and won. By the way, there's Tuesday Night Football when we record this on CBS Sports Network. Liberty does take on, as I scrolling, Florida International in Lynchburg.
Great.
Minus 16.5. So college football starts early this week. You know what else starts early this week? It's the Vandy hype train as they go, I believe, to Lexington to take on Kentucky. This is, again, not a layup. My last one is because I know how to build hype. Vandy minus 13.5, baby. I am taking it. Welcome to the Thunderdome, known as Nissan Stadium. Let's go. It's not Nissan Stadium, but you get what I'm saying. Vandy minus 13.5.
There's an Alabama hangover. Terrible pick. Robert, go.
Well, the good thing about...
Oh, wait, that's plus 13.5. I'm sorry.
The good thing about this is Robert doesn't like to shy away from things, and that's when he looks at these Tuesday games. Because why not? Florida International, I got them at plus 17. Am I going to watch the game? No. But I'll tell you what I will do. I'll check into that score, baby, and let's see if those Panthers can keep it within 17. I would love that.
Robert knows how to have fun. We should really weight these things so you win more points when you hit the really bad ones like Robert just did. Makai, give me your last one.
Come away from behind at the last second.
My last one is going to Big 12 After Dark, and that is Kansas State and Colorado. Listen, Kansas State, they're all right. Utah or Colorado, they're all right. What I know is that Kansas State likes to run the ball and score. What I know is that Colorado likes to pass the ball and score. What I see is green dollar bills when you take the over of 56.5. So give me Colorado, Kansas State, over 56.5. I see track meet written all over this game.
That's an interesting pick because mine is such a layup. It's just the layups of layups this week because I'm feeling like another 3-0, and I'm going to be sitting at 11-10 next week. Makai's going to be like, oh no, I'm going to have to take off my pants. And so here we are. I am taking the money line for Texas. They're getting like 14.5 or 14 or something against OU. But I just think they have 2 quarterbacks that if one of them isn't doing well, they put in the other one. And I think Texas wants the natty this year more than anybody. I think everyone's running away while Texas is running towards it. Give me UT money line to win the game.
So that means it's all down to me. And hey, I like to have fun. I know you guys like to have fun, but I tell you what, I want to go to the Fun Belt. 7:30 on Thursday. I like these midweek games, Tuesdays, Thursdays.
You picked the most of them this week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I like to have fun. I'm a fun guy. You know what I'm saying? A little ha-ha, hee-hee. Coastal Carolina, James Madison. 4-1, 4-1. I would actually watch this one. I'm off on Friday, so I could actually watch this misery unfold for myself. Over under 60.5. 60.5. You know what? Give me the over. We're going to have a good time. It's going to be fun, ladies and gentlemen.
It's been the 4th and 1 podcast. That was the Red Panda known as Robert. I'm AKA
And I'm Captain Boring. Wash those hands, you filthy animals. We'll see you next week.